People can be dancing at a disco in the evening, and by early in the morning, they're intubated in the ICU, unable to breathe. Those are the extremely chilling words of Dr. Craig Dalton. He's an associate professor at the University of Newcastle, and he's describing a truly terrifying medical reality that has literally brought a massive international operation to a complete standstill.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the incredibly tense, rapidly developing situation that's unfolding right now off the coast of the Canary Islands. We've got a cruise ship carrying a deadly pathogen, international passengers totally stuck in limbo, and a geopolitical clash over how to bring them safely back to land. We're going to unpack the politics, look at the precise medical data, and basically try to figure out what all of this means for global health.
Section 1, Chaos in the Canary Islands. Okay, let's dive into this. So our story begins right at the port of Granadilla in Tenerife, where a cruise ship has been hit by a severe viral outbreak. Passengers, which includes a group of Australian citizens and a permanent resident, were promised that they were finally going home. The plan was totally set. They were supposed to be transferred to the island, put on charter flights, and flown back to their home countries. But in a massive shock, with passengers literally just 6 hours away from this transfer, the president of the Canary Islands called an impromptu press conference at the port and completely canceled the authority for the whole operation. Which brings us to Section 2, a political flashpoint. Almost instantly, what started out as a medical evacuation transformed into a massive administrative standoff. It turns out we've got a huge clash of timelines here. The World Health Organization and the broader Spanish government had promised that this entire repatriation operation would be completed smoothly, within a day or so, but the president of the Canary Islands, who is directly responsible for the local jurisdiction, well, he pulled the plug. Why? Because specific charter planes, notably from the Netherlands and Australia, were delayed. They completely missed their arrival window. Without concrete proof that the WHO's one-day timeline could actually be met, the local president firmly enacted strict health protocols, arguing that a dragged-out operation just posed an unacceptable risk. And to really understand why the local president is so fiercely protective of those health protocols, you have to look at the sheer density of the population. There are over 1 million local residents in the Canary Islands, plus countless holidaymakers. On top of that, in just 4 weeks, the Pope is scheduled to arrive in the region. So that sheer volume of people, combined with an impending massive global event, it basically created a pressure cooker environment where local authorities felt they simply could not take any chances with a delayed medical transfer.
Section 3, Understanding the Andes Strain.
But what exactly is this microscopic threat that's causing politicians to cancel flights and lock down ports? To understand the chaos on the ground, we really have to look at the threat on the ship. What's fascinating here is the timeline. The original hantavirus pulmonary syndrome was recognized around 1993, but it took just 3 years for the medical community to identify a new, highly dangerous variant in 1996, and that is the Andes strain. This is the exact virus currently afflicting the cruise ship, and it's absolutely notorious for aggressively targeting the lungs and causing rapid physical collapse. Section 4, From Disco to ICU. And this brilliantly illustrates what we mean. When medical experts use the word rapid, they really aren't exaggerating. The most terrifying aspect of the Andes strain isn't just what it does to the human body, it's the shocking speed at which it disables it. For the first 3 to 4 days, the virus kind of disguises itself. You get highly nonspecific symptoms, maybe some aches, a headache, general lethargy, but right around day 4, it flips a switch. A sudden cough develops, followed rapidly by pneumonic syndrome, where fluid literally rushes into the chest, dropping oxygen levels drastically. Within just hours, this leads to complete lung and heart failure. This is exactly what Dr. Dalton meant with his quote at the start of our explainer. Someone can literally be out having fun, dancing at a disco in the evening, and by early the very next morning, they're completely unable to breathe for themselves and require intubation in an ICU.
Let's move to Section 5, Limbo and Long Incubations.
With a symptom timeline that aggressive, it's pretty easy to see why the local authorities in Tenerife panicked when the flights were delayed. But let's zoom back out to those passengers currently stranded in limbo, specifically focusing on those Australian citizens and the permanent resident on board, who thankfully are not currently showing any symptoms. The good news here is about transmission. The Andes strain actually doesn't spread easily between people. Because of this, standard, highly disciplined infection control measures are incredibly effective. We're talking about basic but strict practices, wearing masks, keeping individuals strictly isolated, and having the entire transfer directly supervised by the World Health Organization. As long as those are maintained, experts don't expect any spread to occur once the passengers finally touch land.
However, a lack of symptoms today does not mean they're entirely in the clear. The virus has a notoriously long incubation period. It can actually reach up to 6 to 8 weeks at the upper end. This massive waiting window is exactly why these asymptomatic passengers require ongoing rigorous surveillance and monitoring. Even after they eventually make it back home, they'll have to be watched closely for up to 2 full months.
But I did find a really crucial silver lining embedded in the medical data. Even if a passenger starts feeling those early aches and pains we discussed earlier, it turns out they're actually not highly infectious during those initial stages. This means that if symptoms do appear, immediate isolation and basic infection control practices can be put in place right away, effectively stopping transmission dead in its tracks way before the patient becomes highly contagious.
Section 6. The next global pandemic?
Of course, whenever we hear about a deadly virus trapping people on a cruise ship, our minds immediately jump back to the trauma of the past few years, right? It begs the elephant in the room question: is this highly fatal disease the spark of our next global pandemic? So the crucial point we have to understand is how these viruses behave over time. If you look at COVID-19 or influenza, their hallmark is rapid mutation. Their ability to transmit and infect changes every few months, keeping global health systems constantly scrambling. The Andes strain of the hantavirus is the exact opposite. Because the Andes strain is so biologically stable, it's actually placed extremely low on the list of viruses that could spark another pandemic.
To really put that stability into perspective, in the last 30 years, there has been only one real mutation of this virus that led to it being slightly more transmissible. Just one mutation in 3 decades. While the Andes strain is absolutely a nasty, incredibly dangerous bug for the individual who catches it, on a global scale, this data point should be a massive collective sigh of relief for the rest of the world.
And that brings us to the core of what we've discovered today. The political standoff in the Canary Islands is chaotic, for sure, and the symptoms of the Andes strain are undeniably terrifying. But the science clearly dictates that this is a containable threat, not a global one. It leaves us with this final thought to ponder. When headlines scream cruise ship virus, how does understanding the actual mutation data change our fear into informed relief? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the right questions, and I'll catch you next time.